share it. Where are you, Beth? There you are. Share it.
Where am I?
I shared it to you.
Yes, you did.
I got something to do. Okay, I'm just sharing it to a couple people. Oh, I probably should turn that down so you don't hear feedback.
Well, I do it all the time, so I guess it's all right. You're always like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's me. It's me."
I know, right? There's two of us watching, which is probably you and me right now. Oh, there's a third person watching.
You and me.
We'll just entertain ourselves. Well, because I have it on my phone, so hey,
Right?
I don't know who's watching.
Hello.
There's four people. That means there's two other people watching.
It really does count us. That's
Yes, it does. Well, if you have it on your phone, if you open it up, like I'm on my
Oh,
computer,
I got
I'm
you.
on my computer, but I have it opened on my phone so that I can see all the comments come through
Gotcha.
because it's hard to pay attention here. Hi, Darren.
Hello, Darren.
It's going to be a short night tonight because we're just not feeling it. Nah, she had some stuff go on with her bearded dragon, and I have to get ready for vacation. So, it's what, that's the worst part of vacations though. It's the before and after.
It really is. I agree. I agree.
That's the most stressful. Is before vacation when you have to plan everything and pack everything and make sure everything's taken care of, and then the after part because you just want a day, a rest. We are going to Colorado for a week.
She's
Yeah,
lucky.
yeah, we're driving, so it's a long drive. But luckily, we already like do long drives, and we're good. We're good. Co-pilots. But yeah, it's like an 18-hour drive.
Yeah, it's
24
far.
with 24 probably with stops and stuff because we're taking the dog with us too, so he's definitely got to get out and stretch his legs.
I'm too old for trips that long. I think I would have to split that up into 2 days.
Well, we're leaving Saturday and driving Saturday and Sunday, so
Okay.
because we'll stop at like a rest stop and rest and stuff. So yeah, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's just the before that's not so much fun.
Right.
Anywho, let's get started.
Okay.
So we are going to talk about three different nursery rhymes because they're all weird. We always said before there's dark sides, but some of them are like not a lot of information on them. But you hear those stories, so we decided to put three of them together tonight. So we got the Muffin Man, Three Blind Mice, and Jack and Joe. Yay! So
Yay.
yay! So we're gonna start with Three Blind Mice first. We're
All
gonna start
right.
with that one. Um, so please share out if you can. Um,
So let's start by saying the nursery rhyme. You want to do that? Oh, nice.
sure. I know. I
So
just like this one. They look cool and suave.
that's a cool one. It really is. So it is three blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a sight in your life as three blind mice? And I believe it's actually a song, but
It
I am
is.
not going to sing it.
It is a nursery rhyme. It's you know a lullaby song, whatever. But even that, it's so funny. Like as a preschool teacher, I look at some of them like, who wrote this and why and what were they thinking to call it a nurse like Mother Goose nursery rhyme? Like we're gonna sing this to our kids during the day or at nighttime. Like
Hi, Kelly.
how morbid is that?
Right? No, agreed.
We have
Totally
Tony
agreed.
Santori watching. Hi, Tony.
So there are different thoughts about this one, and the common and less
Hi,
common.
Kelly.
It does talk about execution and Queen Mary. Which it also says people are always trying to find a historical significance of the things like Three Blind Mice. So they believe that the rhyme was written even earlier than 1609. And they believe that it refers to Queen Mary.
Yep. Also known as Bloody Mary.
She was believed to have blinded and executed 3 Protestant bishops. Who could these be the 3 blind mice that they speak of?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it a couple different, like I've heard it this way, but I've also heard it as it was her servants, you know.
Okay,
And
yeah.
this was many moons ago that I heard this part of the folklore, is that it was her servants. They weren't doing their job correctly or servicing her properly. And so she said, "Off with their heads," is what I heard. So that's, a little bit of how I think, Alice in Wonderland got that too,
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard that side of the story too, along with this one.
So apparently there were some earlier lyrics that were written in 1609. And those lyrics don't mention blindness at all.
No.
It's the more contemporary thought, I guess. I don't know. It entered children's literature in 1842 when it was published in the collection. But I mean, I guess the horrifying thought about it is to know that these mice got their tails chopped off. I mean,
right.
That's awful. How awful is that? And and we teach our kids to sing this, and
well, that's what I'm saying. Like you're talking about them being blinded and tails cut, with a carving knife. Like she's chasing him with a carving knife, and you're like, okay, she's gonna murder the mice, and so to say. But little kids, I know little kids probably don't think of it as we do, but it's still morbid to me. Like, and I used to be a preschool teacher and sing these all the time with the kids, and I was like, what was I thinking?
So apparently in 1904, Frederick Warne and Company published an illustrated children's book called The Complete Version of Ye Three Blind Mice, which depicts the rodents out as mischievous characters who seek adventure, eventually taken in by a farmer who chases them into a bush that blinds them. Their tails are removed by the butcher's wife, and the story concludes with 3 mice drinking a tonic that lets their tails grow back and their eyesight recover. And they live happily ever after. There are so many versions of this.
Well, there is, because there excuse me. Excuse me. There is they try to make these more gruesome ones into a brighter, positive nursery rhyme, so people eventually turn the lyrics around a little bit. I think because a lot of the nursery rhymes, there's like a moral to the story, and I'm thinking, this is my personal opinion, but mice invade farms, they go where they're not supposed to go, and she's chasing them out of their house, she's trying to protect her land. So the moral to me would be, don't go where you're not wanted to, get harmed. Like, don't come into my house or you're going to get hurt.
Right. And you know what? You're not far off, because according to this article that I'm reading, it's talking about the the way that kids can relate to it, in that because they're small and sometimes in danger of running into peril, but the rhyme is sung as a cautionary tale. The idea of being, don't go eyes closed into a new world unless you're willing to risk something,
Yep.
even losing something important. And that's the meaning behind why it's lasted so long. So, yeah, I mean, you're not far off. Like, don't put yourself in a bad situation and you
Right.
wouldn't be in a bad situation,
Right.
basically.
And the sad part of this is we sing this, or we say this nursery rhyme to children that are 2, 3, 4 years old. They're not going to get that concept.
Well, and, you
Like-
know, honestly, most people, most of them, and myself included, because until really I had to research it, I hadn't. And
Right.
but most people as parents don't even think about the lyrics. They don't think about the history. They don't think about where
No.
it came from and how it started. And it has 4 different versions and they
Right.
all mean something different. And
Right.
yeah. Hi,
Yeah,
Kelly. What's your question?
Yeah,
Hi, Courtney.
Hi,
Yeah.
Court.
Yeah.
Oh
so
yeah, you can you can ask whatever you want. We love when our viewers ask questions and participate
please.
in the chat. So
Does
yeah,
the
absolutely.
sun rise and set? I believe so.
I think so. I mean, it looks like it does. Moves from the east to the west.
Which would be a rotation of the Earth.
Yeah. So technically, it probably does not.
Right.
It doesn't rise and it doesn't set.
Of the Earth.
It stays still, but it stays still. However,
so no, the sun does not rise and set. Yes, the sun does not move. Very good. We had to talk that through, Holly.
It took me a minute. I'm like,
wait a minute.
Wait, it moves from.
Well, really, the Earth revolves around it.
And then once you said rotation, I was like, wait a minute. It stays still and we move.
That's right.
Good question, Callie.
So that was 3 blind mice.
So yeah, so again, that like we could have probably talked about 3 blind mice when we talked about Bloody Mary on our first episode.
Yeah, we could have. But although a lot of the research I had didn't have that tie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah. So, but you know, they're different. I mean, I know people still sing it. It's a catchy tune.
Yep.
You know. But our next one, and our next one that we're gonna quickly talk about is Jack and Jill. Yeah, I want to save the Muffin Man for last because that's a little more
gruesome.
It's obscured and weird. But Jack and Jill, and do you want to sing that one too?
Let me find it.
Jack and Jill went up the hill.
Up the hill to catch. Oh, sorry, do it. There you go.
Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after.
Yeah, I was trying to find it on here. They had it broke down into Jack and Jill. Nice. I like that picture.
Yeah, I mean, there was newer versions of the picture, but I just like
that gives you the idea
because of the time frame. You know.
So with Jack and Jill, it was actually spelled with a G when it was originally a thing, and it's actually the measurement. It's actually Jack and Jill were measures of volume.
Yep.
When it comes to alcohol.
Right. So we're teaching our kids at a very young age about drinking.
That's right. That's right.
And what happens when you drink too much.
Yep. I'm trying to skim through this real quick.
Yeah. So, according to King Charles I, he wanted to implement a tax reform by increasing taxes on jacks or half pints, but Parliament refused to do so. Undeterred, the king decided instead to simply reduce the volume a jack would hold by lowering the imperial measures of the half pint line, which was indicated by a crown symbol. So this is how Jack lost his crown. And then a volume on Jill soon followed, or came tumbling after, which the volume on Jack's and Jill's reduced. King Charles got his tax increase without technically raising the prices on beverages. So, yeah. I found that interesting.
Yeah, that it really is. Okay, so there's also a version of this that talks about a theory of origin about the popular nursery rhyme, that another common interpretation is the idea that the lyrics are really about the beheadings of Francis Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Although the timeline of these events and the publications of Jack and Jill do not line up, the French Revolution was about 30 years after the publication, thus making the theory unlikely. But that apparently has been some kind of a theory of where it came from as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading.
No, that's fine. I'm reading.
It was a very long read, so I kind of missed what you said there.
I was saying that there was another interpretation of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's really no proof or evidence behind it, it must have been brought up that it also could be about the beheadings of Francis Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. But the timelines don't match up according to the publication.
Right.
And the French Revolution was about 30 years after this publication. So the theory is unlikely, but evidently it was something enough to bring it up, you know.
Right.
And write about it. But that's where Jack and Jill came from. So every time you drink, think of good old Jack and Jill.
I'll think of Jack and Jill this weekend.
You're gonna be Jack and Jill.
I'll be like, I got my Jack. You got your Jill. Where's my money? I'll be like, where's my money?
It's a new slang. Like you'd be like, I'm gonna be Jack and Jill in it.
Yes, Kelly, you there is, I do believe that a little bit from a young age, where we believe what we're told, what we're taught in school. And sometimes, like, I will tell you this, my ex-husband, after he had his incident with the vaccine and went crazy, he was a big, huge conspiracy theorist and watched all those, like, everything under the sun, and then would ask us questions and then ask us, well, why not? Who told you that? And I'm like, okay, but why do we have to second guess everything that we were taught? Like everything. And I think it's kind of like what you're saying. Yes, I feel some things were brainwashed in believing. But I also think we have to form our own opinions about things, you know? Just like there's always two sides of every story. I'm not going to sit there and believe one person over another. I'm going to listen to both people, find out, and then go with how I feel. Like, what do I feel is the right, correct thing? I'm going to listen to my instincts, you know?
Right.
You know?
Well, that's your best bet right there anyway.
Right.
Yeah, Ron, there are a lot of similarities to life events. I totally agree. Totally agree. Hi, Jennifer.
And I don't, and Kelly, with the reference to the Bible, I believe in some things in the Bible, but not everything. And Adam and Eve is one that I have a hard time believing. I'm Catholic. We're born and raised Catholic, but I'm also like my science too. So I've always felt like caught in the middle. Like, I believe in evolution, but I also believe in, you know, this way that I was taught as a religion. but there's
You're
some
taught
stories
that they did, Kelly.
There's some things I don't, and that one I have a hard time believing.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that is a big rabbit hole.
So what else do we have about Jack and Jill?
Yeah, you're right. Their side, your side, and the truth.
Yep.
But sometimes we might not always get the truth. So
it's true.
You know. Yeah, I don't know if they actually ate the apple off the vine. I mean,
they tell us that they did.
I wasn't there.
Right. Exactly.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there. We
Apples
almost
don't grow on vines. She's just full of riddles.
Because when she said vines, I was like, you had me, and I was like thinking really hard. I was like, it grows on a tree, not a vine. But I said that in my head, not out loud.
I didn't even catch that one. So.
Yes, you're right. The Bible is a book. Oh, I like that you think so. Kudos to you. Yeah, we're all weirdos.
We're all weirdos. Kelly.
We're all weirdos. we wouldn't be in this field, I think, if we weren't a little on the weird side. I saw someone post something, and not to get off topic too much, but I saw someone post something about lunchrooms, and it said, "Where did you sit in high school?" And it said the weirdos, the jocks, the loner, the this and this, and I'm like, nowhere. Like I didn't fit in any of those tables. Like I didn't. And I can't say I was a loner because I had friends. I didn't have many friends, but I had friends. I just didn't fit in.
Just start your own table.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're all weird, But oh, you're welcome. We try to get everybody's, sometimes we miss them. Hi Jennifer. Hi Joanne. They're all watching. Thank you for share out if you can. Even though hi Laura. We're probably going to cut short in a little bit. So let's get to the Muffin Man.
The Muffin Man.
Muffin Man.
Muffin Man.
You all know this one.
Why don't you talk about the Frederick side of it?
I like this picture. This was creepy.
Nice. Nice.
I saw this. I was like, yeah, we're doing it's got worms coming out of a muffin. But here is a one version of what he looks like. So basically it's do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane? Then it goes, yes, I know the Muffin Man. Okay, so it has multiple lyrics, right? So they're not talking about the sweet muffins we have in America, like blueberry muffin, chocolate chip, sprinkled, whatever you put in your muffin. They're talking about English muffins, the ones you'd have with breakfast. That's what they were talking about. But so this is a little odd one because when we were researching it, it basically is unknown how true that it's saying that he was a serial killer and killed children. So the folklore goes that he had killed 13 children between, he was born in 1563, died in 1612, and during his adulthood killed 13 kids.
15.
How many?
15.
15. Okay, 15.
Is what the folklore says, I think.
Right. And the name of the dude that they're saying is the actual Muffin Man, his name is Frederick Thomas Linwood. So he owned a bakery. He's kind of freaky looking, you know. Looks a little shabby, needs a haircut and a shave, you know. Um, I don't know if I'd want muffins from him. But anyways, so back in that century, they didn't have the tools to make the muffins like they do now, where they can make so many at a time. But back then, people wanted their muffins, their breakfast, their morning muffins delivered. So these bakers would stay up all night baking these muffins, and they didn't have the necessary tools. They had a wooden spoon, you know, this and that. But they didn't have like the hand mixers and whatnot. So they would have to knead the dough with their hands. Sometimes they would use their feet. Yuck. Yuck.
Yeah.
Yuck. But they would do them in places where there'd end up being shards of glass and their muffins and this and that. So it's kind of gross because it wasn't clean. Their bakeries were not clean. But this is how one thing so basically one story that I found said that he would lure the children because the way they made their bread back then, it would have cyanide in it. It would have different poisons in it. And I don't think they did it on purpose. It was just the dough, you know. I don't know. I still think half our food nowadays has chemicals in it that we don't know about, but whatever. So it would have.
How do you think the cattle grow up so fast?
I know, right?
Yeah.
And so basically, the children would run rampant because all this is in their system. So much sugar, you know, to make them sweet or tasting, would be in their system. They'd run rampant, and it would bother him. So, so he would put a muffin on a string and lure the children back to his bakery, and that's when he would supposedly knock them out with a wooden spoon and then kill them. But the theory is that it's kind of hard to knock somebody out with a wooden spoon because you can't. I mean, unless it's like unless their wooden spoon was like super heavy, like a really heavy rolling pin, which they said wooden spoon. So that's, and they would knock them out unconscious. Now, the funny part of this story was from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is weird. Like, I know anybody can go on there and put stuff on there, but this one right here was hilarious because it went into talking about this Thomas Linwood, and that growing up, his dad was actually the baker. And his dad would, so to say, molest him, rape him, whatever. So he kind of had a bad start in life. Then it turns into his adulthood that he got a job as a rapist at age 15.
That's pretty realistic. Come on.
I'm like, what? So as I'm reading this, I was like, that's a job? Like, like what? Yeah, a little jam with your muffin. And I was like, so yeah, Fred got a job as a local rapist at age 15. He wanted to continue his popularity when he was 20, when the King Henry VIII banned peasants from being raped as a result of his unpopularity. He changed his name from Bob for a short while period, sold apples out of barrel on the street corners, hence the expression bobbing for apples. So this is where so this is Wikipedia. That's why I had to share this one, because I started laughing. I was like, no. So then it goes to talking about the murders, And not only did he murder kids, but he murdered the other bakers in town so that he could be the only baker. So he distanced himself, but he drowned the first chef, Chef Randall, he drowned him brownie batter. Chef Williams brain beaten to death. Chef Carver too much bam with a matchlock. Chef George he flattened with a pin. Chef David cooked to a golden brown. Chef Aaron shaked and baked. And then Chef Adam killed with a mortar after tripping over a pesto.
Some unlucky people, you know. So did he knock him out with the wooden spoon?
But the funny part of this, I was cracking up because it was like it said the post-mortem. So it says Fred was buried face down in a log under a former British church, which in 1987 was torn down to make way for a McDonald's. The McDonald's would later go out of business after an incident involving an Egg McMuffin.
What? That must have been something somebody added to it on Wikipedia.
The franchise would be replaced by a department store, which would be mysteriously burnt down after the construction of a cookie shop. Currently, the area where Fred is buried has returned to an undeveloped lot, but it is expected to be the site of a stadium for 2014. So this was old, but I just thought that was funny. I don't know how true that is. I mean, it sounds like his spirit is still haunting the land and won't let you eat an Egg McMuffin, or
maybe just because they called it McMuffin.
Yeah, and then it burnt down because of cookie store. Yeah. So I kind of thought, though, I don't know how true this Wikipedia reference is, but it just kind of cracked me up.
Well, even in reference to that, I was able to find a site about it's called No, the Muffin Man Was Not a 16th Century Serial Killer. But it has a bunch of different urban legends, which it talks a lot about what you were talking about. Except they decided to research this a little bit more thorough. And they went to a site. I had it up. It's just like Wikipedia, but it's called something else, and which led them down a rabbit hole, right. Which we can clearly see how that's easy to do.
Oh yeah.
And ended up finding out that not only did Frederick Thomas Linwood get classified as like one of the first serial killer or whatever.
Yeah.
To find out he really wasn't, even though they gave him that title later. The research that these people found was that he was not the first one. I mean, not that any of them are good, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like we're number one.
Right.
But I'm just saying that, I mean, there's so many different stories about all these different nursery rhymes. It really just kind of depends on, I think.
Hi, Sam.
How you were taught it.
Right.
Or where you were when it was happening.
Right.
Because if you're in France, it may mean something totally different than it does, in Africa or whatever.
Right.
I'm just
regional. Yeah.
Out there. I don't really know. But yeah, I mean, and obviously there are different versions or there wouldn't be anything to talk about.
Right.
So they've been brought up from somewhere.
Right. And sometimes I'm curious, because like I said, that one seemed a little funny to me. But the thing is too is I sometimes wonder, because like I said, I used to be a preschool teacher, so I sang all these nursery rhymes, and it wasn't until I went to a conference or something and learned a little bit of the dark history. I was like, oh, why are we teaching our kids that? But again, every nursery rhyme or every fairy tale, there's a moral to the story. So what's the moral that we're trying to teach the kids? Is there a more positive approach to that moral? Sure, there is,
What is the moral to the Muffin Man? Like, don't trust Muffins? I mean, like,
Well, muffins are bad for me. They make me fat. So it might be taste. They taste good. They taste good, but they make me fat. Like they're not good for. They're not. No, I'm diabetic, man.
I
And let
feel
me
like
tell
it's some
you,
kind of a trust factor, like something to do with trust in it. I don't know.
let's see. I'll look it up.
Yeah, what's the moral of the Muffin Man? The moral. And really, what's the moral of Jack and Jill?
I don't need a block update.
Don't drink. That's the moral of Jack and Jill.
Or drink responsible.
There you
drink
go.
responsibly, as Captain Morgan would tell you.
Okay, so behind the meaning. Okay. Yeah, some of this stuff is kind of hard to find.
I mean, it doesn't have a moral, I guess. It's not coming up. I'm like,
well, Jack and Jill, it says, as mothers, we unite together in Jack and Jill with the primary purpose of seeing our children and all children succeed in every way as they develop into future leaders. So there you go. If you're carrying volumes of alcohol as a child, you are now a future leader. I would imagine, I don't know. I'm looking too for the Muffin Man.
oh, I'm not getting anything. I'm not finding nothing. Maybe maybe my library can find it.
I can probably find something on it and
You
report
probably
back.
could. You probably could.
Report back. I'm looking also, and I'm not seeing anything. I mean, just by Googling it.
Did we decide what we're going to talk about in like 3 weeks?
I think so.
I don't have it on my calendar, so
I think I sent you a flyer.
Did you?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Let me check. I can't remember.
It's been one of those days for us, folks.
It really has. Maybe not, because it was probably the one before this and this one. We had talked. What about? Well, I guess we can discuss it after.
We'll figure it out. We have 3 weeks. We'll let you know. Just make sure you guys come back. It'll be July 20th.
July 20th.
I am on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Much deserved vacation.
Yes. Have fun.
I'm so excited. I can't.
Your 24-hour one-way journey.
Tomorrow goes really fast at work. Probably won't.
No, Fridays always go slow, especially if you're about to start vacation.
Yeah, like the clock is ticking, you know, like tick, tick, tick. I'm going to do it at work in our little work chat. I'll be like, clock is ticking, tick, tick, tick. Drive them nuts all day because they really, I'm surprised they actually let me have 2 weeks off in a row, but they did. I was like, hey, I'm good. Let's go. Let's hit the road, Jack.
All right, so July 20th, we'll have a new topic. Hopefully we can get it out a little sooner.
It'll be a serial killer.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go female.
I think we should, because we what was our last one? Oh, John Wayne Gacy. That was a good one. That was a good. I like that one.
Anybody out there have an idea?
Yeah, who would you guys like to hear about? Who would you like to hear about? Let us know.
I have a couple in my head right now, but I'd rather do something that everybody wants to hear about.
Yeah, so just let us know. Text us, send us a message, whatever you are interested in. We'll look it up. We'll talk about it. So anyways, you guys have a great night. We're going to go. We're going to sign off because I got lots to do in 2 nights.
Have fun on vacation, Miss Holly.
Thanks. Oh, and happy 4th of July to each and every one of you. Stay safe. Enjoy the fireworks, but be careful. Don't blow off a hand,
Don't be a firework statistic.
Yeah. Be safe out there.
That's right.
So enjoy. And thank you to Kelly watching all the way from Australia. So that's pretty
Yes.
cool. Come back and join us again. We appreciate that. So you guys enjoy. Have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.